What is going on to all you lovely people out there? And thank you for clicking on today's video. For those that are regulars, thank you. Always appreciate the support. And those that are coming to the channel for the first time, welcome. You know, as you go to a new restaurant, they say, hey, take a look at the menu, see if you like something, and sit down and stay and enjoy yourself. And I want you guys to do the same. But listen, man, this is if this is your first time here, my name is Elliot. This is MovieFiles. I'm a film and television critic, cover new movies, new shows, do live streams, do short videos. We do it all here on this channel. But today we're doing something a little bit differently. I started implementing this on the channel a couple weeks ago, where I'm covering some of the biggest news of the day or the week. We covered the Bo DeMaio situation with Disney. We talked about the Acolyte cancellation, and today we're talking DC. If you are new to the channel, I am a DC fan. I'm a lifelong DC fan. I'm a Batman fan, my favorite superhero, and I want to start doing these more. But you know, honestly, the excuses come up. Oh, I gotta work. I don't got time. But you know what? I'm gonna bring back something I learned at a very young age, watching one of my favorite shows of all time, which was Martin. And as he says in the show, ain't nothing to it but to do it.
Ain't nothing to it but to do it. Give it to me one more time. Ain't nothing to it but to do it. Now, Rob, ain't nothing to it but to do it.
So if you want to take something away from this video besides the great news we're talking about, take that with you. And remember, ain't nothing to it but to do it. But speaking of today's video, we will be discussing some DC news. It's been a big week. We got some great stuff coming up, and the DCU is starting to gear up. We're obviously got the Superman going. That's coming out next year. We got Creature Commandos later this year. We got the Penguin in a couple weeks, and we got the Joker 2, Fully Ado, coming out next month. So there's a lot of things going on in DC. And as a DC fan, as you can see on my face, I am pretty excited about it. And we're going to talk about some news, starting off with Matt Reeves, the director, co-writer, engineer, the architect of the new Batman from Robert Pattinson. He spoke about the Batman Part 2. He's got a script. He turned it into DC. He says they're pretty happy with it, but he also details some of the things that we can anticipate with the movie, such as more corruption going on in Gotham. We have Robert Pattinson's Batman experiencing more dramatic stuff and more trauma. And also he talks about what we can expect as far as grounded and fantastical. So we'll talk about that. We'll also be talking about, speaking of Batman, we got to talk about the Joker 2, Fully Ado, which just premiered at Venice Film Festival. There was some applause going on. There's some mixed reviews going on. I'll share my thoughts about that. And then for my Green Lantern fans out there, you talk about things heating up. We got some casting news going out for Hal Jordan as well as John Stewart. And I'll be sharing my throw my hat in the ring for some potential casting for both characters that I'll be talking about. And then we'll round out the video talking about just some other rumors that are going on in the DCU, which I'm here to let you all know about. So with all that being said, let's get into it. So let's take a look at this article, and this is Matt Reeves talking about the Batman 2. And as you all can see from the headline, the Batman 2 will include Colin Farrell's Penguin, but not the Gentleman Ghost, because we would never go into the full fantastical, Matt Reeves said. Let's dive into this article. So director and co-writer Matt Reeves recently sat down with SFX magazine, and he talked about the script is currently being finished as we speak, which is exciting, as he talks about the Batman Part 2 will plan on shooting next year. So before moving on, I just got to talk about this first thing here, which is number one, the script is being finished up, which is so great to hear, because if you all remember, just a couple months ago, there was some ramblings and rumors about the Batman 2 might be canceled because where's the script? Where's the casting? What's going on, Matt Reeves? It got delayed an entire year. Will we be getting this film? Well, here you are. The script is being finished. Apparently WB was happy with it, so that gets me excited. But number two, they will be shooting next year, which gets me even more excited, because what that means, if you read between the lines and if you follow these type of news, we're going to probably get some casting announcements pretty soon. I would imagine, I'm going to put a bet on this, that we will be hearing some casting announcements by the end of the year. Villains, supporting cast, you name it, I'm excited for it. But let's continue to read this article to hear him talk about Colin Farrell's appearance in the Batman Part 2. As Matt Reeves continues to say that Colin Farrell will be a part of the Batman Part 2, and obviously he will be returning as the Penguin. They shared the script with WB, and they're very excited. And if they're excited, I'm excited. I know we're all excited about that. He continues to say that the Batman universe will be extending with the upcoming Farrell-centric TV show, The Penguin, which will be coming out in a couple weeks. And I also will be covering that on the channel, so keep an eye out for that. But he says that Reeves, this is an entry point into the Batman 2, and added there are details that are actually connected right into the way that the next film begins and the way that Oz enters the world as we hand the baton back to the Batman, and Batman is on another case. So let's break that down here for a second. Number one, I think we all anticipated that Colin Farrell was going to make it out of his own show, that they weren't going to kill him off in the series. So that's exciting. Now we got that confirmation that he will be a part of the Batman Part 2. And what I'm reading into, it sounds pretty clear that he will be taking over Gotham, that he will have a greater presence in Gotham. And I know I made a video about the whole confirmation that Robert Pattinson's Batman won't be in the show, but I have a video talking about how Bruce Wayne will play into the show, and we'll see how that turns out in a couple weeks. But this to me sounds like Oz again will be making it out of the show, which is great, and he will have a big part in the Batman Part 2. And it sounds like he will be running things in Gotham. So I'm super excited about that. I love just as they said, taking the baton from one show into the movies. Now, question being, as far as for you all in the comments, does it feel like homework? This is the MCU of it all, right? This is where you watch the Batman that came out a couple years ago, you watch the Penguin, and then you have to wait another 2 years to follow up that story. So is it too much time between projects? Does it seem like there's too much homework? Let me know your thoughts on that. Me personally, I love this type of stuff because I love when things are connected. So I'm happy about it, but let me know how you all feel about it in the comments below. So let's keep the conversation going on about what he had to say about the Batman sequel. As he says, is going to dig into the epic story about a deeper corruption, and it goes into places that he couldn't even anticipate from the first film. As he says, the seeds of where this goes are all in the first movie. It extends in a way that will show you aspects of the character that you never got to see. Batman is constantly battling his forces, but those forces can't be entirely exercised. So the next movie dives deeper into that. So let's dissect what he's talking about here as far as what we can anticipate, what we're going to see Robert Pattinson's Batman going through. So number one, he talks about diving deeper into the corruption, which to me kind of speaks to the idea of the Court of Owls. I think that this is setting up a Court of Owls being the big underbelly of Gotham. And if you aren't too familiar with the Court of Owls, essentially think of the Illuminati of the Gotham City. We have the richest and oldest people that have had monies for decades, and they have been orchestrating all the corruption, whether it's hit jobs on politicians, changing things the way they want it to go so it can all fit into their narrative and their story and how they want Gotham to be run. So I'm thinking that he's going to be exploring more of the revelations that the Court of Owls have been involved with the Riddler, the Joker, and all the different various, Harvey Dent as Two-Face. So I'm pretty sure that we're going to be diving a little bit deeper into the corruption and that the Court of Owls. And then to touch on the diving deeper into Batman and battling his demons, things that we haven't seen, at least in this interpretation. Because I would say, we saw some of that with the Bruce Wayne and Batman that we got with Christian Bale and also Michael Keaton as well, and a little bit of that in Ben Affleck. But I'm excited to get a little bit more backstory. Obviously we didn't get an origin story and saw his parents die, which we don't need to see that 1,000 times, right? But I think we want to get a little bit more Bruce in the Batman too, because one of my issues with the Batman was we didn't get enough Bruce Wayne, but in particular we didn't see the persona, the Playboy persona. They were two of the same. Batman was Bruce Wayne was Batman. But I'm excited to see the distinction between the two and learn about his past and maybe learning about relationships that he had with previous people, whether it be Hush or Harvey Dent. So I'm really excited to see Robert Pattinson getting to expand on, again, kick-ass Batman, action sequences, the detective story, but I want more Bruce Wayne in the sequel, and it's looking like we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that, and that gets me excited. So last thing we're going to talk about is Matt Reeves talking about the groundedness of his universe. As he says, it is important to find a way to take the pop icons, these mythical characters that everyone knows, and translate it so that Gotham feels like a real place in our world. We will push the edge of the fantastical, but we will never go into the full fantastical. It's meant to feel quite grounded. As he continues to say, it doesn't mean that we won't see characters that we love. That's exactly what we want to do. Gentleman Ghost is probably pushed a little bit too far for us, but there is a fun way to think about how we could take these characters that might push over the edge into the fantastical and find a way for it to make sense, which all that makes sense to me, because we know from the Batman, Riddler, Joker, Penguin, Catwoman is very grounded in nature, very much, the Christopher Nolan approach. And I'm okay with that because That's the beauty of the DCU, what James Gunn's got going on. I am, with Damian Wayne, Ra's al Ghul, we're going to probably get into the Lazarus Pit and get into the craziness of the Batman Rogues Gallery. And when it comes to Matt Reeves, we're going to get the more grounded characters. We're going to stay into the reality. And like he just said, he's going to play with the idea of, like, there was a rumor that Clayface might be in the Batman too, which, if you know that character, you know that there's different interpretations. There's the animated series look of the character. We won't go to those lanes, but we'll probably have an actor that has a face deformity and it plays into him being a serial killer. So I love what Matt Reeves is saying. I understand where he's coming from, because you can't go from the Riddler to having, Killer Croc in the next one, right? So I understand his approach and I appreciate it, and I'm very excited for it. So before we go into the next news article, let me know your thoughts on the fantastical nature, the grounded nature, the script being turned in, DC's being excited, the Penguin's going to be in the Batman 2. We're going to dive deeper into the corruption. Let me know your thoughts about that. Let me know your theories. Let's talk about it in the comments below. So now that we talked about the Batman, it's only right that we talk about the Joker, right? So let's talk about the Joker 2. Fully Ado was just premiered at the Venice Film Festival, and a couple things I want to touch on here. Number one, it was said to have received 11-minute stand of applause, which we'll talk about here in that second. And then secondly, as you all can see on the screen now, the reviews have come out and they're not the best. It's kind of a mixed bag, as they say. And on the time of this recording, the movie has a 5.9 out of 10 on IMDb, and it has a 60% on Rotten Tomatoes. So first and foremost, let's talk about that 11-minute standing applause. Listen, I hope to one day be able to have the funds to afford to go to TIFF, to go to, the Venice Film Festival, or be sponsored. Anyone want to sponsor me? Hey, I'm open to it, but I would love to go to one of those one day. But listen, I take those standing applause as just kind of take it with a grain of salt, because there's some movies that they stood up for 7 minutes, 10 minutes, 13 minutes. And when you see the film, it's like, what were they doing? So what I do want to talk about is the reviews. Now, as a film critic, I'm going to be honest, this gets me excited, because I would want this film to not be, praised across the board, because this is a film that challenges us. We go back to 2019's Joker and how that film was divisive for a lot of people. I thoroughly enjoyed it and made my top 10 that year. And I am looking forward to the sequel. We're less than a month out, and, I'm liking what I've seen so far from the posters, the teasers, and all the different things that we've gotten from the trailer. And what I've heard some things about the film, and I know a couple people that saw this at Venice, and, yeah, I definitely anticipate this to be a divisive film, especially how things wrap up from what I heard. But I am excited to see it. And I'm glad that, again, it's not getting universal praise from the critics, that it will challenge you, because that's what I want from the film. So let me know how you all feel about the applause that it got, but also the reviews. Are you excited for it? Are you nervous about it? Are you going to skip out on it? Let me know what you all think about the Joker 2 Fully Ado in the comments below. So now let's talk about the big news of the week, and that is for the Green Lantern fans out there. This comes exclusively from Nexus Point, as they say that Josh Brolin has been offered the role of Hal Jordan in the DC Studios Lantern series coming to HBO. Now, as the article reads, we have exclusively learned that Josh Brolin has been offered the role of Green Lantern Hal Jordan in the DC Studios HBO series Lanterns. This version of the character is described as a Lantern legend and will be a veteran member of the Corps. White actors in their 40s and 50s were being looked at the role, and it was determined that Brolin was the top choice for the role of Hal Jordan. And as it continues to go on, they say it is important to note that although Brolin has been offered the role, it is uncertain whether or not he will accept it. If he does turn down the role, they will move on to their short list and their next options. And this was updated a couple of days ago, that exclusively they also learned that other names in the mix is Chris Pine and Timothy Olyphant. So listen, man, I am a fan of the Green Lantern. I am a fan of Hal Jordan, Jessica Cruz, Kyle Rent, all the different, and of course, I'm going to talk about John Stewart here in a second. I'm a fan of them. As it pertains to this story, as it pertains to getting the Green Lanterns into the DCU, I have my own names I want to throw into the bunch. So let's talk about Hal Jordan first, because it seems like, as the article said, that they are going for someone that's a veteran that's been doing it for a while and seems to be in their 40s and 50s. I believe Josh Brolin is kind of in his mid 50s. So they're obviously going for someone that's kind of a grizzled, older veteran. And from everything we're hearing about this series, which, number one, I'm super excited about it, because you got people from working on The Watchmen. We have people that's worked on some of my favorite shows, such as, True Detective, as well as Ozark. So I'm loving the team that they're building. So with that being said, it is said that the series will be in a vein of a True Detective series where we have Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan going to the heart of America to unravel this mystery, this murder, and it's going to tie into the greater DCU. So sign me up for that because that sounds incredible. But going back to the Josh Brolin of it all, whether he accepts the role or not, we just get the archetype of what we can expect from this character. An older, grizzled, kind of Lethal Weapon vibes going on there, as they also alluded to True Detective. I like that route because I want more Jon Stewart, and we'll talk about my thoughts on Jon Stewart, but I like that they're giving us someone that's established in the universe and has done this a ton of times. They got this rookie that they're going to be mentoring, so I like that relationship. As far as Josh Brolin goes, I don't see him as Hal Jordan. He's a fantastic actor. He can play. This is essentially like Gurney for my Doom fans out there, but I don't really see him in the role. If I'm being honest with you all, again, he's a fantastic actor. I hope he can find some role in the DC universe because hell, if you all don't know, he was up for Batman before Ben Affleck. I don't really see him as Hal Jordan, even with the way that they described the character. But I wouldn't be up in arms if they cast him. That's great for the DC universe. But I have someone else in mind. They talked about being True Detective. They talked about it being somewhere in their 40s and 50s. And you know what? I'm going to throw this hat in the ring. I want John Hamm to be Hal Jordan. If they go with the older someone that's grizzled, that's battle tested, I want John Hamm to be Hal Jordan. I would love to see that. Again, I think of Fargo. I think of him in Madman and Donald Draper. I think he can play that type of role. And I think it's been long overdue. His name has been brought up several times with working in projects with Marvel, with maybe being Mr. Sinister. And I think there was rumors a while ago that he might have been up for Batman as well. So give me John Hamm as Hal Jordan. Now for my Jon Stewart, I am so excited to see this character making their first on-screen, big screen appearance. Of course, we've seen Jon Stewart in the comics, obviously, from the animated series. It will be the first time we see Jon Stewart on the big screen. And I got a list for you all. Coming into the list first, Trevante Rhodes. Fantastic actor. He looks the part, the military man, no nonsense man, but has some levity, has some charm, has charisma, can demand the screen. I think Trevante Rhodes would play a fantastic Jon Stewart. But who else do I have on my list? I'm going to go with John Boyega. I think John Boyega is well overdue to have his time on the big screen to play a awesome superhero. And I could see him bouncing off of John Hamm really well. He's played a military person before. We know he has the acting chops. He's right in that age range, and I think they want to have someone in the role. So I think John Boyega will play a pretty awesome Jon Stewart. But what about this one? Now, this is going to be for my Leftover fans, my Watchmen fans, and also Babylon fans. It's a gentleman by the name of Giovanni Depot. He is incredible. Like I said, Leftovers, if you haven't seen it, one of the best shows of all time. He was also in Watchmen. He's been in a lot of stuff. He's a fantastic actor. And going back to just making circles connect, I talked about how one of the writers from Watchmen will be part of this series, and they worked together before. So and he's already worked with HBO before. So I think my boy can be a fantastic Jon Stewart. And then last but not least, I'm going to throw in someone that actually has been in the DC universe before, and that is Aldous Hodge. We might have known him for his role in Black Adam as Hawkman, who he was great in that movie, and I wanted more from him, and I also wanted more from Dr. Fate, but neither here nor there. Bring him back into the loop, James. Bring him back into the loop, and I think Aldous Hodge, who is just an incredible actor. He's a leading man energy, and I think he could play a really good military type of character, and him bouncing off of John Hamm. I would love that back and forth. So let me know what you all think about my John Hamm as Hal Jordan, and what you think about my selections of Jon Stewart. And also, of course, share your thoughts on the TV show, the casting. Are you mad or happy that Hal Jordan's going to be kind of an older veteran? Or can we anticipate him maybe dying in a series, or maybe sticking around in the universe? And then obviously Jon Stewart being our main Green Lantern in the DCU. Let me know your thoughts about it in the comments below. And last thing we want to finish up this video with is talking about some of the latest rumors in the DCU. Starting off with the Man of Steel himself. We're talking about Superman. It is said, and by the way, this comes from Daniel RPK on the social medias out there. He said that Superman has said to be fantastic, which gets me excited. Also, is said to really shift more into the hardcore science fiction and fantasy, opposed to Man of Steel. I'll share my thoughts about that that here in a second. And it is said that this will be showing us heroes that have been around for ages, and we'll see how that affects the world and the history that's shaped in the DCU. And also, speaking of the DCU, it is said that they will feature different projects set across different timelines, but just not present day. So more in line with the approach of Star Wars and Marvel. So let's backtrack. Talking about the word on the streets from the executives is that James Gunn put his foot in the Man of Steel Superman film, which I am very much anticipating that movie. I have all the faith in the world that James Gunn is going to put all his skills, his sensibilities, and everything that makes him great as a creative in this movie. So that gets me excited, and I wouldn't expect anything less from James. Now, when they say that this movie is going to be more hardcore science fiction and fantasy because it's going to be the opposite of Man of Steel, I don't know what Man of Steel movie you saw or didn't see, but 2013's Man of Steel is 100% science fiction. I mean, look at the opening sequence alone. And as far as the fantasy of it all, I'll give them a little bit of that. Like, there wasn't as much like fantasy involved, but just show some love and respect to Man of Steel. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I love me some Man of Steel. So, but neither here nor there as far as focusing more on the fantastical, the fantasy, the science fiction. Sign me the hell up. I'm all down for that. And then the other parts that they mentioned, we already know that it's already been established that there's going to be heroes and villains that's been around for ages. So I'm okay with that. Just jumping us right into the world. I'm fine with that. We're going to be in different timelines and learn about the past and the future and the present. Sounds right up my alley. I'm good with how James Gunn is setting up this universe. So let me know what you all think about the Superman news. But let's also talk about something else that we heard about, which is, all right, this is another exclusive from the Nexus Point saying that Luca Guadagnino is set to direct Sergeant Rock at DC Studios with Justin Kurskis penning the script. As the article reads, Challengers super duo Luca Guadagnino and Justin Kurskis are reteaming once again for a DC Studios feature film. Nexus Point News has exclusively learned that Guadagnino is set to direct Sergeant Rock with a script by Kurskis for the DC Universe, and the film is expected to be a period piece set in World War II. So first and foremost, I don't know much about Sergeant Rock. I know very little about him. I know he popped up in a couple TV shows that I've watched in the past. Like, he was alluded to with the CW show. He was also in one of the Justice League episodes. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe this was a character that was supposed to be on the big screen, like in the 80s. I think Arnold Schwarzenegger was going to play the character. Bruce Willis was going to play the character. Guy Ritchie was going to direct it at one point. Steven Spielberg name was attached to it. So apparently this has been a character that's been yearning for the big screen for a very long time. And from the little bit that I know about him, think of it like a Rick Flag type of character, military person who is a human, but has said to have some superhuman strengths at time and can, recover from injuries pretty quickly, but mostly a human and in a military. So I would assume if this is a period piece, and I'll talk about the Luca Guadagnino of it all because I'm a big fan of his, but I'm assuming that this may or may not, because I think he has some ties to Justice League United, but also Suicide Squad, but also Creature Commandos. So I'm thinking we got Creature Commandos coming out in December. We may have some allusions to Sergeant Rock or a name drop or an appearance. And as you know from James Gunn in the DCU, whoever's in the animated shows, who's ever voicing the characters will be appearing in the live action. So I wouldn't be surprised if they plant that seed in Creature Commandos in December, leading into this film that, again, this is all rumors, but I think that's the route that they'll probably go. If it's not Suicide Squad, if it's not Justice League United, it probably will have some connective tissue and ties to Creature Commandos. But as far as Justin and Luca Guadagnino, big fan of Luca, like from Call Me By Your Name, from Suspiria to Challengers to Bones and All. And I also watched a TV show they did on HBO, We Are Who We Are, I think was the name of it. As you can see, I'm a big fan of Luca. He hasn't made anything bad in my eyes. He's a fantastic storyteller. And this is an interesting choice. I think from the stories he's done so far, very personal stories, very isolated situation, very character driven, nothing too fantastical about his work. It's a comic book character. And I don't really get comic book character energy from Luca's projects, but I'm always been someone that says a good screenplay, a good story is a good story. So he tells good stories, and I'm sure he can make something work if this is indeed to be something that's going to happen in the future. But let me know what you all think about this news. Are you a Sergeant Rock fan? Have you been waiting for this character to hit the big screen since the 80s with Arnold and Bruce Willis? Are you not familiar with the character? Does this news move the needle for you? Do you like Luca? Do you not? Let's talk about it in the comments below. So that's it. That is our news of the DCU and all the stuff going on with the Batman update, with the Green Lanterns casting, with the Joker's reviews, and obviously what we got with the rumors of the week. So let me know what you all think about this. Do you want to see more of these type of videos? Because I'm a big fan of the DC universe, and I love Marvel and Star Wars, and I'll maybe do a couple more news stories with those other IPs. But again, I'm here for my DC fans because we're gearing things up, man. We're getting things started. So if you like these type of videos and you want to see more from me talking about some of the latest news from DC, hit the like button, share the video, and let me know in the comments what you think about this format and what you would like to see in the future. So if you stuck around to this point in the video, thank you all for watching. Again, check out all my other content that I have on the channel with my reviews and other things that I have. So again, thank you for watching the video. You all stay safe. Like I said earlier, take this with you and do something that you're scared of doing or nervous about doing. And just think about this. Ain't nothing to it but to do it.